Every year during the week before Easter, we share some outrageous dessert recipe that we think will be the talk of the table. And this year is no exception. And what we love about the one this year is that it's not just for Easter. It's worthy of being served all year long. It's a strawberry lemonade cake, and here's how easy it is. We start by combining a box of lemon cake mix with strawberry gelatin, a few eggs, some vegetable oil, water, and a package of frozen sliced strawberries that we've thawed. After this is mixed, we pour the batter into a couple of cake pans and into the oven they go. While they bake, we throw together a lemonade frosting by beating together some powdered sugar with butter, along with some lemon juice and lemon zest. Once the cakes have cooled completely, all that's left to do is frost them. Can you imagine this as the centerpiece of your dessert table? And let me assure you, this isn't one of those cakes that just looks pretty. It tastes amazing too. It's just the right amount of sweet and tart, plus it's super moist. You can get the recipe for our strawberry lemonade cake by visiting our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a very sweet way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I know I could make that cake. It would not look like that. I know that for sure.
But I do like he's teasing us with the summary food.
Yes, yeah, wow, Howard.
Come on, Howard. In the meantime, we're going to keep it more like stew season with those temps in the 20s. Hot chocolate too. Temperatures for us Wednesday morning, a handful of degrees below zero. Chances for Thursday and Friday of snow keep going down, which is a good thing. Instead, 30s for the weekend.
Yeah, that snow total is still sticking around though.
We're very close, very close.
Thanks, Heidi. Yep. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. How are ya? It's another episode of In the Crosshairs with JD and Clay, and I heard you. I heard you there, Clay. Clay,
yeah,
can you hear us? Yeah, we heard him, but he can't hear us though. Unfortunately,
guys, we hear you.
We hear you, buddy.
Well, it might just be you and I, Jay. I might have to send Clay a text here quick.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and that? I'll give the folks a little background of what we've got going on. Each and every Monday at 12:30, I hook up with a couple of the premier sportsmen here in the area. We've got JD and Clay with us. In the Crosshairs is the name of the program. And we cover a variety of topics each and every week at this time. And some really good topics we've got on hand this week, including pistols and bears. We're going to talk about U.S. Senator John Thune from South Dakota, who's introduced a merchant category code. Also, Native Americans living on tribal land will now have an easier time buying firearms. Plus, the new government in Brazil is moving to roll back the surge in gun ownership in that country. So lots of great topics to get to. Did we get you, Clay, or are you there with us, bud?
I believe we're back. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. We got you. All right. Well, hey, listen, it's always a pleasure to have you guys on with me each and every week at this time. So let's jump right into it. I know we've got a half hour, so let's not spare any time. Pistols and bears. Now, JD, when you sent this to me, I had to do a little dig a little deeper into it. Now, recorded defensive uses of pistols against bears has grown by leaps and bounds over decades of research. What does this research tell us, JD?
Well, from what I can get from it, Jay, is not only technology and pistols getting, far, far superior from what it was back in what they say the first recorded effectively used for self-defense in the 1840s until now. And, of course, media, social media, everything. It seems like every week now I'm seeing something about of somebody defending themselves. I've just read a story yesterday, two guys defending themselves with from a bear attack, The earliest documented case was in California-Oregon border, 1890s, a 44 caliber Colt revolver. I'm not real familiar with old firearms, but I know 44 caliber is pretty big. That's probably Clay's specialty there more than mine.
Yeah, but it was a 40. Generally, they're 44 40s, and the reason they went with that is they could put them both in a lever action Winchester as well as their revolver. Okay. And there were several cartridges like that because, well, on the frontier, you didn't want to have to be looking for ammo or having two different calibers.
Yeah, makes sense.
It was great.
Makes sense. So yeah, for from the 1890s and 1960s. They were averaged one per decade, which you got to believe there was more than that, right? One per decade, somebody shoots a bear once in a whole decade with a handgun.
Yeah.
I just can't believe. That's what I mean. I think it definitely has to do with some of the media. And from 60 to 69, there were 6 of them. The 70s there were 8, 80s there were 8, 90s a dozen were recorded, and then once the World Wide Web comes out in 89. We go 2000 to 2009, there was 40, and from 2010 to 2019, we're up to 67. So, I mean, I think there's more people probably going into the woods now too, and a lot of people going out and going on these trails and forests, national forests and whatnot, and they're feeding the bears more too. I mean, we've all seen the people getting out trying to feed animals, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
not a
maybe
good
they
thing.
do that. No, it's not. I think people are trying. Maybe they see bears and they think bears are cute. I agree with it. Bears are neat animals, and maybe they want to feed them. And bears come and eat people's food, and then they see some guys up in the mountains and think, hey, these guys probably got some food, and turns out they got a 10 millimeter or something on them.
Say, Clay, does it give the folks maybe a little more assurance that they've got a weapon of that caliber, that they can, hey, you know what? I've heard that there's a report of bears in the area, in this area. That's fine with me. I can go up where in, years previous, you probably thought, I'm not going to go in that area now that I know that there's a report of bears.
There could be some of that. I've hunted in Wyoming quite extensively, even down into Colorado, and my choice was always my Black Hawk Ruger in a 44 mag, or I'd even take the 454 Cosol. I got a few bigger ones now that I'd probably take just to have reassurance. But that 44 Magnum, especially today in the availability of it, I think that probably does play into it. They feel more comfortable. There are a lot of laws out there though when you're doing a self-defense against a bear, because they are so protected. Not as much on the black bear side, but especially on the grizzlies. And when you get into that Wyoming country, when you get up there up above Laramie and in through there are grizzlies up in there. And, when we go up there hunting, and if we were successful, you definitely had the meat pull, and you definitely were on alert, because it's kind of an eerie feeling. I've never seen one as far as stalking us, but there were times that we felt like we were being watched. It really was. And so, yeah, it probably makes a big difference. And at the same time, I was carrying a 44 mag lever action. And for what reason? Because it shot both my pistol and in my rifle. So I was doing the same thing in modern day times.
I know I got a buddy who's a big. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you, JD, how close have you ever had a close encounter with a grizz or a black bear?
No, I think one time I was skiing at Bridger Bowl. We might have seen one up on a mountain somewhere, but other than that, I was gonna say a friend of mine, like Clay was kind of talking how eerie it is. He's a big mountain guy, and he goes up with his dog, and he said a couple times, he hangs his meat up in the trees, and his dog would you couldn't see past the darkness, and his dog was just like, laser locked on something circling his camp. And he said he was almost certain it was a bear. And he's a pretty brave, tough guy. And he said he might have soiled his underwear a little bit there. He got a little scared, which I wouldn't blame him.
I wouldn't blame him one bit either.
I can tell you this: we were out in Colorado hunting up above Walden into that, basically that wilderness area. That one night we heard something rattling around in our camp, and yeah, we both had our pistols drawn, the two guys that were with us. And I can tell you right now, that was an eerie feeling. We were very much relieved to find out that one of the horses got untied, and we're just they were going through camp, kind of, mowing through stuff. So that was a relief. I didn't even care about the mess.
Yeah. Bear had a 44 on him, so like you said, Clay, he said 44 mag. So it's, I'll definitely take a rifle 100% of the time over a handgun, but
I mean, as a last defense, of course, you got a pistol because, well, a pistol, it's a close quarter, I guess, gun that the bear would have to be within a certain distance, and if you're not right on, and you got to be, one of two things, dropping a load in your drawers, or you got to be dead on with that pistol. Where would a guy, obviously a headshot between the eyes to drop him?
No.
I mean, where do you shoot a bear with a pistol?
You're going to want to try to get into the chest or get into that chest cavity. You shoot a bear, even with a 44 mag in the head, you're probably just going to piss it off. The way their skull is sloped and it's so hard and so thick, it's actually pretty hard to kill a bear head on into the skull. I know every time that I went bear hunting, you didn't want to shoot them in the head. If you did, you want to put it behind the ear, but I definitely went for the lungs and the heart when I did it, because I don't want him coming at me. I want him dead.
I wonder if it'd make a difference if you use like solid copper bullets instead of the leads.
Could be, maybe.
I know big game hunters in Africa, they use like solid projectiles that don't open up because of the thick skin and bones of that animal. So maybe that's the difference with a bear. And I'd also add that maybe a lot of people who do shoot bears and have over the years when they were out doing something, if you hit them, some of them, they'll take off and go away, or they just don't want to get in trouble, like Clay said. They thought they were going to get in trouble if they shot it and just never told anybody, or they hit it and the bear took off and died somewhere, and they're like, I ain't going to look for that, because you always hear the story of the wounded bear turning on you. So,
I mean, I can tell you one thing: it's the slope of that skull that makes it so difficult to kill them when you shoot them in the head on. That's why you don't want to do it. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's a lot better to take a different shot.
My only thought is, the only experience I ever have of bears is what I see on TV. And if you see these bears, and of course it's always fictional Hollywood, that this bear is running after you and he's coming right at you, what is your recourse? I guess to let him get on top of you and then shoot up, I suppose, if he doesn't knock that gun out of you. I guess how else would you do that,
I mean, if it's me, I'm aiming for his head. Clay's maybe right, but I'm going to just mag dump it or get all the shots in the wheel gun right into his head.
I'm going to go right about here as he's coming at me, if he's still on all fours, which they are if they're charging generally. I can tell you that a bear doesn't generally charge you. I've been bear hunting several times. I've even been around them when we've been elk hunting. I'm telling you right now, unless there's cubs around and it's a female, generally you're not going to get charged. I'm not saying it never happens, but I have never been charged yet, and I've seen a lot of black bears while we've been out hunting in the Rockies in Wyoming and Colorado. Never been charged.
So what would you rather have, Clay, bear spray or a 44 Magnum?
44 mag, 58, you know, all the good ones, 500 Smith and Wesson.
Because I've also read plenty of stories where people use a bear spray and that didn't work and they end up getting mauled. So I would always carry a firearm if I'm going out in
Absolutely.
bear country.
I think you're absolutely right on that. Let's turn our attention to U.S. Senator John Thune. Now, Clay, this is right in your neighborhood, has introduced the Merchant Category Code Neutrality Act, which is legislation that would prohibit the IRS from auditing taxpayers primarily on the MCC used by their business. Break this down for us, Clay.
Well, here, I don't know if you remember here, we actually covered it on this show in the beginning, was the credit card issue, and that's that little 3-digit code. Well, no, not the 3-digit, the merchant code that each merchant is basically assigned, whether it's, you know, restaurants, retail sales, now firearms. They want to put that in and basically create a special one. Well, Senator Thune, and I know John pretty good, actually helped him out on his campaigns when he was first getting elected from South Dakota back in the day. And I can tell you that he's always been very pro Second Amendment. John doesn't waver much on the Second Amendment. He's probably one of the better ones out there. So I'm glad to see him come up with this. And I think they're just getting a little bit ahead of the issue before it actually takes place, because they backed off of that. A lot of these credit card companies and said, "Oh no, we're not going to do it." I'm sure because they were hearing from their customers saying, "You do it, we drop your card." I know I was one of them. I already got rid of 2 cards because of it. Even though they decided not to do it, their history. I don't even want to go back to them because I know what they think now. But I'm glad to see this. Yeah, the MCC, or the Merchant Category Code Neutrality Act, Thune brought that up. It's backed by Lawrence Keene. He's a senior vice president of the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And I agree with them. One of the quotes he says is the IRS, this is John Thune, the IRS shouldn't have free rein to use audits to inappropriately scrutinize or intimidate taxpayers due to the nature of their lawful business, including licensed firearms dealers. And that's absolutely correct. They're taking the IRS. They can't win. Like I said, that when they lose, they change the rules. The Democrats and the anti-gunners. And if they can't win in a setting legislatively, they try to go regulatory. And I think that's what's happening here. And from what I'm seeing, you know, it's kind of new. I think they got quite a little support actually in the Senate, because even your hardened Democrats in the Senate realize that you can't weaponize the IRS. I mean, you always got those on the far left that are going to be for it no matter what. But I think this has a lot of potential to pass. I know it would pass in the House, but getting a veto-proof Congress, I'm not sure they can get that done. I'm pretty positive that Biden will veto it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a civil rights issue. Why should they be sniffing around and what, you know, getting into your credit card, specifically digging down and then going after a company? Well, they did that with, I think might become an Operation Choke Point. Remember that, Clay?
Yes.
And they go after the banks because they were doing business, lending money to gun manufacturers or gun shops, and they specifically target them just for that, and then try and find something to, you know, to punish them because they're doing business with the gun company, which is ridiculous. I hope this works. I hope the Democrats get on board. You know, President Biden's always talking about, you know, your rights up there on state. Well, this is a chance to prove you guys are all about our rights, I guess, in my opinion.
I think I'd add to that regardless of whether it passes or not, you know, you and I talked about this on Wednesday's show. Put it out there, put that legislation up, make them vote on it.
Yep.
Then you know which side each senator, each representative's on. And let's face it, the Senate has an uphill battle. There are people like Mittens Romney in there and crew that they're just never going to vote constitutionally. They don't now. They might have an R by their name, but they definitely are not constitutional.
Right.
So make them vote on it. Make them have a record. Make them take a stand on it. And I'm all for that. Whether you win or lose the battle, at least you're going to get an actual solid voting record on these people, so you can get someone to run against them.
Well, Senator Thune has 6 co-sponsors, and guess what? Not one's from here.
Yeah, imagine that. And in fairness, who knows if they were asked? Because they're all members of
He's next door neighbor.
Well, yeah, but they're all part, I think, of the Senate Finance Committee. So maybe that's just where John went.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of that happens, and they can still sign on. So as this works its way through committee or even to the floor, they can still sign on to it. So
Yeah, not that I'm insinuating our senators are anti-gun, because I don't believe they are, but okay.
Yeah.
no.
All right. Well, let's turn to where there is some bipartisan. Native Americans living on tribal lands will now have an easier time to purchase firearms under a new bipartisan bill that was introduced. And JD, what does this new bill do for those folks that live on the native lands?
Okay, what it's going to do is that they can't use tribal licenses, tribal IDs right now to buy a gun. And it's Dusty Johnson. Hey, Clay's neighborhood again. Clay's guy down there, Dusty Johnson, who it jointly sponsored by Mary Patola, a Democrat from Alaska. It's classifying tribal IDs. Right now, their tribal IDs are an invalid form of ID to purchase a firearm. So it limits tribal members' ability to obtain a firearm. A foreign passport is accepted as a valid form of ID. A tribal ID should be no different. His bill would correct that. I couldn't agree with it more. You got all these the other things. I mean, really, a travel ID works, but a tribal ID doesn't. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I will add one thing to that.
Okay.
You know, they say that the Indian people cannot here on the reservation obtain a firearm, and that's not true. Not that I'm against this, but they can get a driver's license. They don't have to have a tribal one. They can get a state one. And, you know, we've always had this issue of where does the sovereignty end and where does it begin? Does it end at the border? Does it extend? Because I can tell you right now, as a resident of North Dakota, I have no rights in the tribal system as a state citizen. Only the tribal members do. So, you know, you get into that conflict. But yeah, I mean, to me, they're supposed to be part of the United States. So as citizens of the United States, they should have the same Second Amendment rights as you and I do. So yeah, I'm not against the bill. I can see where there's some issues, but when they say they can't get a firearm through the channels now, it's not entirely true. They can always get their state ID rather than tribal. It's kind of like when we had the other issue with license plates back in the day.
A tribal ID card, you can also use it for boarding a plane and accessing federal buildings and banks across. So I don't see why that wouldn't be able to use that for buying a gun.
It should be. As I said,
there's actually
another point that they can do it now.
Yeah, there's
another
bill in the Senate that's coming up too. This Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, he's got one in the Senate. So again, the anti-gunners who claim to be for the little man, here comes your chance. Here comes your chance to give people the right to use their tribal ID to buy a gun. But it's, you know, it's kind of like Clay and I talked about Wednesday about Biden administration is all about making marijuana illegal, unless you're a gun owner, and then you're a gun owner.
So just to be clear on this now, so Native ID holders can only buy on the reservation, or can they buy it off the reservation? Is that what we're talking about here?
They'll be able to buy off. They'll be able to use it to fill out the 4473 and you know, purchase just like you or I. And as Jamie was saying, and to that point, I think they can already use it, like you said, to board a plane. I think they can use it for just about anything other than that right now. So to me, I don't have an issue with it, but they're, you know, I don't like it when assumptions are taken. They say, well, they can't get them now. That's not true. All they have to do is get a state issued ID, which they can get, and they can actually have both of them. It kind of goes like the voting thing, and they said, oh, you can't vote because you don't have an ID. That's not true.
Who issues a tribal ID?
What's that?
Who issues the tribal ID, the tribe or the feds?
But
be Standing Rock.
Okay.
Yeah, the tribe does.
Here would be Standing. I'd be the tribes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I have an Indian ID myself, and when I went to purchase my Henry 22 rifle, I could not purchase it because I did not have the correct address on my driver's license. So I had moved a year previous, and they said, unfortunately, you cannot do it. I said, well, it's cleared, because all you have to do to update your driver's license is go online and say, I've moved, and now this is the current address. So the state has the current address, but on the physical ID itself, they wouldn't let me buy it. So I said, I have a tribal ID, and they're like, no, you can't use that. I was like, okay, well.
And see, this would clear that up. You'd be able to, under this, you'd be able to use that now.
Yeah.
Still, you'd have to have your current address. The address thing goes actually to the 4473 form from ATF. Actually, if you don't have your current address on there, and you use a different address that matches your ID, technically, you just committed a felony under federal regulations through ATF.
I don't want to do that.
It can get it can get pretty complicated that way. Especially with the new form coming out.
Well, I'm hoping this passes. So
I am too.
Yeah.
Keep our eye on it.
All right, and well, Brazil's new government is moving to roll back the surge in gun ownership through a variety of new laws and reforms. That's including a limit on ownership. Clay, what's this about now? Bolsonaro, of course, that was a hotly contested election they had recently, where I think the left candidate, he ended up winning. I forget his name, Lula or something, ended up defeating Bolsonaro.
Yeah, and what a contrast and difference. It's almost like we see right here between Trump and Biden. You got now a guy in there who's a rabid anti-gunner versus Bolsonaro was pro-gun. I mean, he wanted to have people and have firearms in their hands because he felt it made a safer Brazil, which it did. And now you got the new guy coming in here, and this guy, he basically he's declaring war on gun owners. And you know, unlike the United States, we're unique. We have a Second Amendment. We have 27 words that guarantees we may have firearms with no infringement. No other country has that, including Brazil. And this is what happens when you get somebody in there who has a different ideology, and he's going after him hard. I mean, he's actually a very leftist leader. There's a lot of things going on there. We had a couple of video clips on our show early on in this when the presidential election took place down there. Our friend Marty Beard sent us from a couple of guys he knew. I'm telling you that it was not a good thing down there, and I really, it's a shame to see what happened to Brazil since this new guy took over. But he's really going after firearms and the firearms industry to the point that they want to register them, which will lead to confiscation. You got Taurus, which is a gun manufacturer down there. They're actually signing on with this idiot, which is going to cost them, and it already has caused some issues in the United States. Taurus of the United States. Because let's face it, they're the same company, just a different affiliate. And I think you're going to see some really bad anti-gun things coming down to the point that they're going to send their military and cops after normal everyday citizens. We still haven't heard from them two guys. Marty said he still hadn't heard from them since they went to Brasilia.
Yeah. So some of the things Lula is doing here. He's reversed all these laws. He wants to suspend new firearm registrations, change the maximum number of guns a person can own from 6 to 3. And he says it's time to put your weapons down that should have never been wielded. Guns kill and we choose life. We've proved many times on our show, guns save more lives than they kill. So, and he is, his presidential decrees that if you can only have 3 guns, right? And if you don't turn all your other ones in and have more than 3, then you're subject to arrest. And I don't remember what the penalty is going to be. It's pretty ridiculous. Oh, okay, here 2 to 4 years in prison along with a fine. So I don't think any good day in a Brazilian prison sounds very fun to me. But
I would say nada. We watched this happen before. We can go back and great examples. Germany. What was the first thing Hitler did? He declared firearms and weapons illegal. And the first people he disarmed were who?
Except for his guys.
Yeah. Was the Jews. And we know how that ended. I mean, you cannot go in there and disarm your populace and not think that, the people then will lose they'll lose any rights they had. And that's what the goal is.
I said except for his guys, because I'll bet you Lula's guys aren't unarmed either.
No, I'm sure they're fully armed.
Wouldn't this create more of a black market then for Brazil?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They got millions and millions of guns there. So under Bolsonaro, the gun ownership doubled from 1.6 million to over 3 million. And I get a charge out of this is they said they're running ads here about school shootings in the United States and ask if that's what they want for Brazil. And gun ownership's doubled in 4 years and they haven't had a school shooting there. So I don't know how that's going to work out for them. And of course, in 2018, when Bolsonaro took office, crime started going down and gun ownership doubled. They said it was because gangs made a truce. Well, okay, let's just say that's true. But gun ownership doubled and crime still went down. So it's still not the guns. It was the gangs who were committing all the crimes then, right? Not the guns.
It's a win. We win the argument either way. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're defeating themselves here.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Some great topics covered up. Let's talk about Guns in the 701 weekly show. You've got a preview of what's coming up on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I do, Jay. Actually, so we all remember the tragedy down there in Uvalde when that murderer went in there and massacred all them kids and students. So the police down there, as everybody knows, sat by in the school, heard the gunshots. Guess what their excuse was now why they didn't go in there and do anything? Because the guy had an AR-15. That's what their excuse was. Mm-hmm. Well, if anybody remembers or paid much attention, the guy who stopped this dude took a pump shotgun from his barber and went in there and stopped it himself with no body armor or nothing. And we'll have other stories about how people stop people with an AR-15 with a handgun or whatnot on there. And California freeway shootings have been skyrocketing, which I don't understand how that's possible with all their great gun laws and gun control and registries.
That utopia of California?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then something fun, I found a 1933 manufactured M2 machine gun, 50 BMG, is still in service today. It's still being used in service in our military from 1933. And of course, I have a few other things on top of that. But
a happy ending and the Second Amendment bullet points. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can catch that at 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 Central. It'll be on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and www.gunsinthe701.com. And after that, it'll be up on Clay will load that up on iHeart and all the other podcast platforms. Then we'll be on Friday morning as well, Clayton, right?
Yep. I get it loaded usually pretty easy, unless, I'm in the heart of cabin right now. So if I get dragged down by being up all night, it might be the next day. But yeah, for the most part, I get it up there just about right after the show.
Yep. And every Friday we're on Todd Mitchell in the morning at 8:40 a.m. KFYR Radio.
Yep. Clay, before we let you go, how is calving going down there for you?
Well, it's going pretty good. Haven't lost any, even with the bad weather and things we've had. It's been a challenge this year. I'm about 17% done already, and my technical due date was only 2 days ago. So I guess I'm ahead of the game. But we're getting some calves on the ground. We're dealing with the snow. Still got one loader down, but we'll get that fixed. It's been a hard winter on equipment, and we've had a ton of snow. So I'll be very glad when it's all gone. I'll take the mud over the snow any day.
Well, it doesn't look like not much is going to melt in the next 2 weeks. I don't know. Jay bought that snow blower. That wasn't helping us out either. So
I'll tell you what.
Go buy something else, Jay. Yeah. Go buy something else. We got to try something.
I got to. I know. We just can't get away from this cold weather. I mean, we got a little sprinkle of snow, not much of dusting today, but I'm telling you, this cold weather. And my MDU bill, and here I see MDU wants to. They're asking to do a little increase once again. So
12%, big increase.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So
speaking of big, have you seen these big snowbanks in these parking lots around Bismarck?
Yeah.
Hey, these things are enormous. We got mountains growing here now.
I saw that on your.
I caught the video. Yeah.
That's if you want to climb a mountain, go up to Menards, right?
Right, Menards, Kirkwood. I think there's a few other ones around too. I don't know how the heck they get them that big, but that's awesome. I think these guys have a contest, these snow removal guys, now to see who can get the highest peak built in these parking lots.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. In the Crosshairs with JD and Clay, you can catch it each and every week here on Monday afternoons at 12:30, and of course their show Wednesday evenings at 6 and 7 on their channel Guns in the 701. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Look forward to your visit next week. All right.
You bet.
Keep your powder dry.
Yeah, appreciate you,
Love
Jay.
it.
Keep your powder dry and not Henry.
All right, my friends. Take care. We'll
buddy.
catch up with you again. You bet. All right, it is now a couple minutes in front of 1 o'clock. Stick around. We have got more at the KFYR Plus News Desk coming up next.
In times like these, AAA helps members save money with a collection of benefits worth over $1,000 that includes free identity theft protection, free career assistance, and more. Join AAA for savings every day.
A scenic drive to where they first met, and then the unexpected happened.
Hey Mom, how's the drive?
Believe it or not, we just got a flat tire.
Wait, what? Well, you have to call AAA.
I think I can take care of this.
No, Dad, don't.
I've been changing tires for 50.
Mom.
We're calling AAA.
It's times like these you're glad you have AAA, because getting you back on the road safely is why we're America's most recommended roadside service.
Hey, sir, you're all set.
AAA. Join today and expect 100 miles from home, and Sam left the lights on.
Seriously?